Welcome to Lesson 9.2, Number Sequences. Today's objectives will be able to identify arithmetic sequences, geometric sequences, describe the patterns in arithmetic sequences, describe the patterns in geometric sequences, and use patterns to find missing terms. Alright, so the first thing we need to do, we need to define what is a sequence. A sequence is a set of numbers that follow a pattern. So for example, you could say 2, 4, 6, 8. They all follow the pattern of adding 2 to each number. A term is each number in a sequence. So in this case, we could circle 6 and say that 6 is a term in this sequence. 2 is a term in the sequence. 10 is a term in the sequence. Okay, so this would be your example for sequence, and this would be your example for term. An arithmetic sequence is a sequence with a fixed pattern where you add the same number to each previous term. Add being the key word in there. So in this case, the sequence that we were using is an arithmetic sequence because you add 2 to each number. A geometric sequence is a sequence with a fixed pattern where you multiply the same number to each previous term. So the difference between the two, arithmetic you add, and geometric you multiply. So in this case, we took 2 and we went to 4, so it was times 2, times 2, times 2. And our last word, conjecture. A conjecture is a prediction of the next terms in a sequence. So if our sequence was 2, 4, 6, 8, our conjectures would be 10, 12, 14, 16, any number that we're not given, that we are using the pattern to make an educated guess as to what's next. Okay, so for our first example, we need to describe the pattern. Now, there's a set sentence that goes with describing the pattern, which I already started for you, but I want you to practice making sure that you are using it. So it always starts with start with. You have to tell me, what number do I start with? So start with, and in this case, we're starting with 3, comma. Now, I need to figure out what my pattern is. I know that to go from 3 to 15, I can multiply by 5, but if I take 15 times 5, that doesn't get me to 27. So, since I'm going up, my number's getting bigger. Instead of using multiplication, because that didn't work, I can try addition. 3 plus what gives me 15? Well, if I do the subtraction, I know that 15 minus 3 gives me 12. So if I add 12 and add 12, so far so good, add 12. So I know that my pattern is that I'm adding 12. So to describe it, I say start with 3, then add 12 repeatedly. If you don't put the repeatedly, that tells me that you just do it once and then you're done. So you need to make sure to have the repeatedly, or if it's something where you're going +1, +2, +3, +4, you use the ending and so on. So now we have to find the missing terms. So we have to take 39, and since the pattern is to add 12, we are going to add 12, and we get 51. And if we add 12 to that, we get 63. If we add 12 to that, we get 75. Okay, example 2. Example 2, yes, we need to figure out what our pattern is. So when you're looking at this, if you have a table and it says position, you're not going from 1 to 12 and 2 to 21 when they're just talking about positions, because this right here, you see 12, 21, 30, 39, that's your sequence. And to make it easier, sometimes people put it in a table. But you have to realize sometimes you go from top to bottom and sometimes you go from left to right. In this case, because there was just a sequence and there was no established pattern for going from top to bottom, these numbers are strictly for positioning. So we have to figure out, how do I go from 12 to 21? Well, there's no whole number that we can multiply by to go from 12 to 21, so let's try addition next. So to go from 12 to 21, I know I have to add 9. If I add 9 to 21, it gives me 30. If I add 9 to 30, it gives me 39. So I found my pattern. I'm adding 9 to each term. So what kind of pattern is this? If you said it's an arithmetic pattern, you are correct, because you add 9 repeatedly to each number. Okay, so I want you to take a moment, look at the pattern, describe the pattern, and then find the missing terms. Pause, and when you come back, you will go over your answers. Okay, for this pattern, you start with 4. Okay, and you should have found that you add 11 and then subtract 7 repeatedly. So plus 11 minus 7, plus 11 minus 7, plus 11 minus 7. So your next term, you would have to add 11, which gives you 27. Now you subtract 7, which gives you 20. Add 11, which gives you 31. So this is the last example that I have for you. I want you, in your notes, you are going to describe the sequence. So I gave you your sentence starters. And you don't have to find any missing terms, but I want you to tell me what kind of sequence this is, and then tell me why. So post on Edmodo your pattern. So I should see the sentence that tells me what your pattern is, and another sentence telling me what kind of sequence it is, and then another sentence explaining why. So you should have 3 sentences for your post on Edmodo tonight. Again, if you have any questions, make sure to write them down or post them so we can go over them tomorrow.